realization, that recognition that others are always in terms of ourselves, you see? It's not just, we are never in terms of others, but immediately there's the beauty, the genius of the sage's words. Others are always in terms of ourselves. This is always malleable affair. Always. We see the world the way we are.
I'm a songwriter and a musician, and it's the gift that I know I've been given. Because I guess it's something that I just can't not do, and it's the only thing that it seems to be present in my life, in terms of something that fills me with a sense of purpose. But it seems like with the gift that I've been given, I've also been given such a profound fear to express it in the world through performance, and I've throughout my life I've just constantly run away from that fear, and I think that just as my life has seemed to be characterized by that running from fear and pain and running towards pleasure and avoiding things that I most likely need to deal with. And it's only been recently, since life has kind of cast me out of my comfort zone in terms of what it wants me to rely on. And it really feels like it's pushing me towards a place where I need to set off in what it feels to me like a hero's journey, like going into the darkest part of the forest. And I'm both excited and I'm scared. I'm angry that it's taken me this long and for life to have to force me out, and for kind of the cowardice that I've given into for a long time. And I guess my inquiry, it really feels like that this step in my life of almost being vulnerable to life and really showing myself and giving life what it deserves, my engagement, instead of just being a bystander, which is what it's felt like I've been in life. That it feels like it's an integral part of my actual inner transformation as well. And I guess I just really want to know if you can expand on the implications of our decisions in the world and how they affect our actual inner transformation, because it feels like there's a part of my unfolding that depends on this moment in my life and this choice that I have to make, and that I won't be able to go farther.
The fears that you speak of, are these fears relating to, let's say, going into the limelight, fears of being seen, fears of what requires to a performer? You said you're a songwriter, right? Do you perform? Do you sing off stage? Do you require to do that? One can write songs for others, and one writes songs to perform them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely it feels like taking what is most precious to me and risking putting out into the world for it to be either accepted or rejected or
Okay, so
experienced.
so this is one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the aspect of, effectively speaking, how we are perceived by others, because this is what it boils down to.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we are perceived by others, right? How we are evaluated by others.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the whole life is, right, in the field of psychology, when there is these two selves that we embody. Maybe multiple cells, maybe, right? But the two certainly, the internal one and the external one. The internal one that hopefully we are the only ones who know, to whatever degree. We can argue that can it be known truly, right? The internal one. We can leave it at that. And then there's an external one, how we present ourselves for evaluation, because through that evaluation of others, we get that feedback. So we are communal creatures, we are social creatures, and so on. There's so much has been spoken about us in this kind of light of who we are as human beings, right? We need to be in groups, as even as far going back to like millions of years of being wired synaptically. To be together, being alone meant perishing. So be together, right? Like it's none of that lonely wolf. It's more like a pack of monkeys. And that being together impacts us, right? Because then it creates that hall of mirror, it creates the theater, it creates the continued evaluation, casting down versus being brought up and what have you. And so I'm bringing this all in so that there is also clarity of what is the real fear here and what is need to be redressed. Where do we do the adjustment? See, what adjustment is needed? Where the adjustment comes from? Of course, all adjustments, the adjustments, the adjustment that we speak of comes from one and only source, is your relation to yourself. Okay, so that what we spoke earlier today with regard to desire, which hopefully will have given more chance to build on that, going into depth. Just like all love flows to the self, every motivation comes from the desire. Everything that we do here is first, has the propensity which is carried by the desire. When it's not, it's not. Desire is that air that pumps the floaty, pumps the birthday balloon, So that relationship with oneself is the most formidable affair, of course. And this is something that none of us exempt to work, and it's a lifetime project. But when it comes to the, let's say, situation that you speak to, like something that is more with regard to how do I, if I hear you clearly, also this is like, also how do I express myself in this life with given talents? And you started, have been gifted with, right? It's something that you recognize as a gift, and honoring that, right? Honoring that is what fills you with purpose, fills you with, right? That creativity, everything. So let's say we'll speak to the lesser now, something that is not existential, not matter of life and death, but more with regard to how do I go about these insecurities, right? How do I conquer that fear, conquer the fear? And it's good that you gave the immediate clarification there. It's not just fear of limelight per se, but also how it will be perceived, right? Would it be whistled at? Would it be cast down, right? Of course, I lived long enough and have diverse interests enough to tell you many stories, like the first exposure Prince has was devastating, right? Being basically spotted by Mick Jagger during their tour in the States. I forgot, I think it was deep, it was like in the wrong place. I think they were somewhere in Texas or somewhere like, Dallas maybe, I don't know. They were like the concert, Stones playing. Yeah, of course. He got Prince as supporting act. The guy was just literally was like this rednecks, get the fuck off the stage, you little pig, They're throwing things at him, beer, cans, everything, Like, genius, right? The Prince is a genius. He's like, I don't know, Mozart of our time. Like once in a lifetime, the musicians like that come that's so talented, like so many. I mean, the guy had it all, in a sense of like, the verve, the beat, an amazing songwriter as well, right? Like, but it's should serve as some kind of imagine being whistled off the stage with like like that when in support of Rolling Stones. No, it only gave him a resolve, that he will never, ever, ever be a supporting act. Doesn't matter how big is whatever. He will be the act. So just giving you this, right? Sometimes we need to go through situations like that so that we actually evaluate our value. And of course, he had value, true value into what he was there doing. So it's not like he was twiddling his thumb. Would it fly? Would it not? Do you like it? No. You take me or fuck off, like that's what I am. Another example, first performance, Jim Morrison. He's like that, totally. Meowing, murmuring something, cannot sing, disaster. These are like classic of rock and pop and rock and roll, right? How the guys who defined the era, defined music per se, modern entertainment industry, everything. This Jim Morrison is the ultimate because the only thing that doesn't age. When I drive car, I can hear the American Prayer anytime. It doesn't get old. Everything else get old. Everything. Bob Marley and even Bob Dylan. Both Bobs get old, but not Jim Morrison. Something because there's something else. The true poet, a true philosopher, nay, sage in the making, right? Decided to play rock and roll and burn like a candle at both ends, 27, right? These examples you need to study, analyze them, scrutinize them to understand that, And then there's a whole of fame of those who hated performance, from Glenn Gould, great Canadian piano player, classical, to Miles Davis, who played back to the audience. He just did not want to play in front of the audience, like facing audience, because he was not playing for the audience. Okay? He would wear the most kind of blinding dark shades to not to, like completely conceal himself. So there are these prodigies, right? They, not everyone is your Freddie Mercury, like for whom everything was that. But once this being said, you need to understand that you need to distinguish here, what is it really here? Is it how you would be judged, or the limelight itself, or that the fact that you are in front of people and have to perform? Because these are not the same things, you see? They are linked. There's an overlapping territory. Stage fright exists for everyone. There is stage fright per se for everyone. There are psychological programs to overcome that. But to me personally, stage fright contains some useful things because, you can certainly tap to that release of adrenaline that it generates that can set you off, where you don't care. And I've jostled among the musicians in the 90s, early 90s in London, enough to watch it myself firsthand, because I was immersed in this whole circles. Like some of the, to become legends, I knew them before they were known to anyone. Like, it's like some of the songs that were written in little small little rooms of the producers in the, like in the basements, like seals, crazy and killer, just Bjork sugar cubes. Who heard of sugar cubes? Nobody knew who Bjork was, It's like all that stuff, just to see her every morning. She was my neighbor in Warwick. I lived in Randolph Avenue. She's on the Warwick. She's like coming in like November. She's in a dress and a carton of cold milk, and I'm already wrapped up for winter. It's not very cold. Yeah, she's come from the ice. So everyone used their weaknesses into this, bend it into strength. See? Björk cannot sing. She's not a singer, but she turns it into a singing. See? And skillful in working with people. A lot of this is, I've watched it and watched how it's also, it all, it's like it's ugly as well, right? That whole musical world, the world of music, and it can be very ugly, highly competitive. But what you need to understand, what you need to realize, what you're doing and why you're doing this, and what you're prepared to do. So if the only thing that holds you back, right, is that aspect of going on stage and being the performer, then you simply need to work on that. Simply work on that, you see? What is it that holds you back? Because there will be this potential no response from the audience, which kind of should give you, then, I don't know, go on the street, on the underground, subway. Yeah, go down where you will be ignored, because nobody gives a toss who is yet there to do this, And then it's the best thing. It's like, sing again in front of the wall. Something that you, effectively speaking, give as a workout, as an exercise, you see? So to create thicker skin so that you can then be less prone to be destroyed, right? And what is destroyed? We're using these words now. If it can be destroyed, then it's not worth it, let's face it, right? Yeah. So therefore, why not to find out, How can it be found out? Only through being exposed to that. So one way or another, there is no way out of it. See, there's no way out. So yes, you said you want to go into the dark forest. This is exactly what you need to do. This is exactly what we need to do at times in our life to test what we can do. Just like we're sitting in Poland now, and I did that some 35 years ago here, in this very country, in 1990, something like that. I went into the deep dark forest at night because I had to do that, Went through some other incentives were for me to do. Also, I was taken off the bus because I picked up a fight in the bus, and I was stuck up for a bully, a drunkard who was like picking on some people there. But the bus driver just took us both off, the bully and myself, So I had to just like, okay, I didn't have money, taxi, what taxi is like already. So just thrust it through the forest. Of course, it's not a pleasant experience, not like real. Anyone local here, near Radzymin, it's Radzymin. It's about an hour by bus from Warsaw. So at the time, it was quite dense forest. And I had to do that because I painted like my first selection, first series of work. And as I was in Warsaw staying, there was a whole gathering, and at the time, people I was with, and family. The news that 3 bandits broke out of prison, and there is a hunt for them. They are armed. They're very dangerous. Okay? And to the young mind of a 24-year-old, I suddenly, and the parameters were given exactly where that country house, my studio was. And I thought for a moment, they will break into the house, will find nothing value, and all they can see is these paintings, like paintings lined up. They will just destroy them. So I went to save my paintings, you know? Yeah, and then I had to go through that forest, you know, and just, it was a frightening experience for many reasons. And of course, there was also a habit of doing things in the wrong way. Since my military days, like I used to go through some terrains where one should not go, just for the thrill of it, because otherwise life was boring there. So we need to challenge ourselves. You see, in that there is this threshold is reached where it's like you can't be fearful to the certain point. Then you cross that, and the fear kind of disperses, dissolves. You see, it's like we touched something very primal in ourselves, very primal. Yeah, of course there are real legitimate fears, right? I'm not talking about like confronting, you know, powers of nature, you know, like extreme heights or like, you know, sea, fire. Not talking about that. Let's not be silly. But challenging ourselves with what makes us otherwise kind of, you know, feel that we are otherwise encumbered, held back by these fears is very, very healthy. Very healthy. And when it comes still back to the limelight and back to the audience, back to this, if you enter this path as a spiritual aspirant, as someone, you need to understand that I will give you this great, great old, you might have heard this, we repeat that year after year. It's like quoting from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. We are never in terms of others. Others are always in terms of ourselves. This is a deep spiritual truth. We are never in terms of others. Others are always in terms of ourselves. See? So this challenges this psychological leitmotif of this being recognized by others, right? It challenges because it gives the deep perspective, because this perspective is not just say to give you confidence. No. Ultimately, every single one of us is the only subject. And everything that we experience in the field of objectivity, including our body is that field of objectivity. So that's what we're now speaking about when we speak about the ultimate state of affairs. So this is why it's always pertinent to the self. It's always about the self. So if you can tap to that, then you're not even in front of the audience. You are not even getting the feedback from the crowd. You see, you are there always alone. You see? And that is a place where the real things happen, really. And then you realize that the performance is taking place by itself. You're not even performing for them or even you. See? Performance simply takes place. And you are fully present for that. You know? Where the line, the difference, the boundaries between the performer, the performance, the audience blurred. And in that, you are infallible. In that, there's nothing that you do right or wrong, because you're already outside of the parameters of these definitions. See, this is at the level of the self. So therefore, that what given back to you is always secondary. It's always like, you know, and this is relevant to every creator, every creative process, not just performance. Artists, poet, whatever we do, and then others give the feedback. The only measure of that is always at the level of one's own, how much I was able to give myself. So this healthy reminder that we are never in terms of others. In other words, others not define us. No one can define us. That what is reflected to us, it's that psychological doer. It's that psychological second self. It's not real ultimately. And the job of a spiritual aspirant is to bring these two into one always. So there's no difference between how am I and how am I for myself and how am I for others. One should no longer know how. And so that silly play finished. Foolish, petty games finished. It's no longer like that. Yeah, of course, it's like I'm not talking about I'm coming to the shower and that's how I am. So therefore, I'm going to display myself here. It's not necessary. It's like showing, proving it in the wrong place. One can still walk many lines straight without jeopardizing, without bending the real integrity of the matter here. And that realization, that recognition that others are always in terms of ourselves, you see? It's not just we are never in terms of others, but immediately there's the beauty, the genius of the sage's words. Others are always in terms of ourselves. This is always malleable affair. Always. We see the world the way we are. See? And this changes. We see others the way we are. We can't recognize. When someone's vision is blinded by, let's say, real bright light of the self, everyone is seen in the same light. But of course, very often that light is unbearable. So we want that light to be dimmed just a little bit, because it's overexposed. Cannot bear it. Just, turn it down. But at least I have to start wearing shades like Miles Davis on stage. And then, okay, that's now I can do it. I can deal with the life now, okay? Everything is more in focus. But it's good to know that that is available to us. And sometimes we do need to turn all the lights on. Sometimes all the lights need to go on so we can see everything and everyone in the light of ourselves. And that will show us that everyone is that light. Everyone. Without exception. We all are that. And that's what the beauty of that. Others are always in terms of ourselves. The beauty we recognize in the other, the ugly we recognize in the other, is the ugly in ourselves. It's the beauty in ourselves. Whatever we recognize, how can we recognize it unless we connect to the facet of that what recognizes that quality? Right? So that's how you work with this, with these insecurities. You work with them mercilessly, mercilessly. You can't pussyfoot with that. You trash that, you destroy that. That's the only way to go about it. You can't have even some kind of I will outsmart that strategy. Like it's not like taking chamomile tea before going performing. The era has passed. I'm not going to suggest you take LSD under your tongue. It's something else. You need to be able to produce that LSD so that your tongue is, like richly swelled in that. So when you can produce that within your own chemistry lab, then it doesn't also matter how you are perceived there. You do your act. And that's it. And leave the rest to the power that be. This is another thing. See, the prince went through that went through that, They had to go through that. We never know what makes us. So sometimes what is there meant to break us makes us from behind the scenes. So this is really how to approach this. See this for what it is. Everyone has stage fright. Everyone is waiting for an approval. We all carry that kid deep into the mature years. We always want to have that, right? That something that makes us feel, I've done the right thing, mom. Done the right thing, dad. Am I doing the right, But at some point, it's like, no. Like, mother, I want you, right? Father, you settle the affairs straight there. That's why I said Jim Morrison still is relevant. So you kill all that deliberately, consciously. It's disclaimer, don't take it literally, please. There's inviting trouble here, right? You have to. The true love for parents can only come when you overcome that dependency. And otherwise it's a sick affair, not real love. And usually that real love, therefore, available to us only when they're gone. Because before that, karma simply plays itself out. So if you can do it before, then right, this is what help us to man up. See, so we no longer look for excuses and we don't look for approval, for accolades. But at the same time, of course, it's good to have the club to those whose opinion value. I'm talking about now concessionally in terms of, let's say, professional life, right? Yeah, you do need to be surrounded by people who will call you rightly, like, so that there is this feedback, unapologetic feedback. Not like everything goes. You see, like today is dangerous. Instagram, TikTok, everything. Everyone is genius. So when everyone is genius, then of course, like who is going to tell you, yeah, but you can dig deeper, Or that's, the beauty of the Beatles as a band was that they were like the boys, right? And they were like, as the boys, they were merciless with each other. And, in these flashbacks, when you sometimes, how it was done, they were like joking at each other's expense. They were like, they were merciless. You look, yeah, in the process, right? Right? Like, and that's why it's so honed, when something worked, it really worked. But if that can only be when there is someone who truly respects you enough to tell you, to give you that feedback. That's what I said, the difference, so that we don't write it or paint it with the same brush, right? So like, yes, there is only self. Yes, only in terms of yourself. But in professional, let's say when it comes to professional, when it comes to, right? So that healthy feedback, how was it tonight? Yeah, sometimes it's like one person's word would be more important, right? As a confirmation, as that kind of, right? Camaraderie, as that, than the whole room, like, So just don't worry about it, basically. Yeah, just don't worry about it. Like, just, just loosen up and just tell yourself, listen, I have no time to lose for all that palaver of, am I good, am I not, this, that. It's like just thrust yourself and find in the process. See, that's all. Let it be messy, because it's always messy.